Hello again. This is another video about this comics biography of Muhammad Ali that I'm working on. This one is specifically about my role in it as the author and illustrator, and essentially just addressing the immediate question that comes to mind is whether or not it's my place to tell this story. And I'll skip to the end, which is that there's not a clear answer to that. I'm not the person that gets to decide the answer to that. I'm gonna present some thinking I've done around that, and hopefully lend some clarity to my intentions in making this work. And then the audience gets to decide. This is very much a project that is on the chopping block, so we'll see what happens. So for me personally, the broadest thing I can say is just that this is a nonfiction comics narrative I'm creating, and I'm a nonfiction comics artist. That's the most work I've done is nonfiction comics work, or work that's about taking concepts or important information and recreating it as comics as a means to connect with an audience or bring the story to an audience that maybe wouldn't have connected with it otherwise. And that's the whole body of work I've done. And there's been a lot of work that I've done that's social justice related or is about people feeling seen who do not otherwise feel seen. And in doing that, I have come across this question many times. So we're just going to talk about it. I would say, though, that the first thing I learned in doing nonfiction work, like in my early 20s, was that I should not enter the work with preconceived notions or like with a clear agenda. I should be entering the work with curiosity and being shaped by the work. Any preconceived notions you enter the work with will essentially interfere with the outcome. They'll slow you down and they'll get in the way. So my role as author-artist is to learn from the source material and be shaped by it. So that's very much what I've done, or how I view what I've done. So in terms of the story of Muhammad Ali, I would say that in the broadest sense, it's a story of self-affirmation. He would sort of select a goal for himself and see it through. He would sometimes create outrageous goals for himself, and he generally almost always achieve those goals. And I think that is the primary reason why he's been an inspiration to millions and billions of people. Why it is my belief that pretty much anyone can connect with this story. And then more specifically, this is a story of Black excellence. This is a story of an African-American man who had incredible achievements in his life, and his story should be focused particularly in inspiring the African-American community. A lot of my training as an artist, too, is just looking at things like airline safety instructions, and like if you get on an airplane and you look at the safety instructions, there's little drawings of people, and it's a bunch of white people, exclusively white people, that makes people feel excluded and not seen. So from that perspective, I've been making work for 20 years that prioritizes representation and things like that. At the start of this book, Muhammad Ali is 12 years old, and that's both kind of how the story starts in most tellings of it, and it's also a point from which a young Black man can read this story and see himself in the story, which to me is really important. So this again raises the question of should I get to tell that story? Am I qualified to tell that story? And you tell me. There's a lot of schools of thought around it. The one that I think I most entered this from is that positive representation is a good thing, that celebrating a Black man's incredible achievements and his legacy is a good thing to do. And then there's other points of view, a major one being that stories about the African American community should be told by the African American community. And that's where I get stuck. I think there's been a lot more social pressure around that in the years I've been researching and writing this book before I started drawing it, and I don't think that's inappropriate. And that's where I don't know. I mean, if I felt like I was taking away an opportunity from someone else to tell this story, that would be a big inhibitor for me. In the time I've been working on this book, there's been several books about Muhammad Ali and a couple of movies. There's a graphic novel that came out this year about the Rumble in the Jungle. So I think that work about Muhammad Ali should and will be released regularly because he's extremely important public figure, and he's one of the most famous people that ever existed on the planet. So I don't know. So I'm just putting it out there. We'll see how it goes. That's really the extent of my discussion on this. I mean, it's such an opportunity for when white people talk about their familiarity or their comfort with other cultures. It's such a great opportunity to say something stupid or that bothers people. So I feel very hesitant to talk about it, but I will say, I don't know, I grew up in Oakland. I went to a lot of schools with mostly black kids or many black kids. I lived in black neighborhoods my whole life. I have black people who are my family. And that doesn't like entitle me to tell this story. But I believe it's lent me some perspective. I would say really the point of sharing that, I think, is just to say that for me, as I pursued this story, I think it prevented a hesitation on my part, that I didn't have trouble connecting with the story or observing the humanity of all the people in this story, and that it wasn't it's not about, for me, I think there's a big thing with white people happening right now too, like a performative anti-racism, that we all want to feel like we're not part of the problem. And I don't feel like I'm not part of the problem. I feel like the problem is systemic, and I am part of the problem. And I don't think that making a book about black people is really something that can change that. I think what we are really talking about is people feeling safe and like their base humanity is respected. I think that's the priority of this moment that we're in. And until that is resolved, which hopefully will happen someday or in my lifetime or ever, until we're culturally in a place like that, we're going to keep having messy conversations like this one that I'm in right now, where I'm like, ooh, hope this is going okay. So, I don't know. I would say that I tried to tell the story empathetically and with a well-rounded perspective and with critical thinking. And then I think the last thing I'll say is that, like many revolutionary figures who live a long time, Muhammad Ali kind of got a little soft towards the end of his life. And his final message, like if you read his second autobiography, is a story of love. It's about love for people and connection between people. And more than anything, I pursued this project from a place of love. And even if I am told I can't do this project, which would suck for me because I put so much work into it, I do not regret the time I spent working on this and the enthusiasm I felt and the love that I felt connected to by working on this story. So I will open the conversation with that. I would love to hear anyone's thoughts about this. This is hopefully a conversation that will continue and be interesting and rewarding for everyone involved. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, this is the second video I'm making for the Patreon video series to promote this book, and hopefully this book has a lifespan that comes out of it. We'll see what happens. There should be a link to the Patreon in the below me text or whatever it's called. It was very well said. So thanks for watching. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, and hopefully I will see you soon. Thank you.